about the Datascientia portal, access and navigation of open data via CKAN. Today's talk will start with an introduction of Datascientia and the concept of open data. Then we will discuss the challenge of open data management, in particular data publication and data composition. Following, we will talk about the proposed solution of these challenges, which consist of catalogs and services, and the role of an open data portal as a container for them. Next, we will discuss on our proposed implementation of a data portal using CKAN technology with a brief insight of its inner workings, and then a wider discussion about the design implementation of the Datascientia portal. We will proceed then with the current limitation and a possible alternative to CKAN, and finally we will spend a few words on the future challenges. Data represent everyday aspect of our world and is becoming more and more central in our society. Data should be available to everyone without charge of any form and should directly represent world phenomenon, which are perceived differently based on our own culture and tradition. These are some of the main concepts on which Datascientia is based. And Datascientia aims to develop an infrastructure to share with all users such data, making sure that the stated diversity is well represented. To do so, the Datascientia portal has been designed and implemented. Let's now take a small step back, going over a few notions before discussing the portal itself. The concept of open data is not new, but its formalized definition is quite recent. The Open Knowledge Foundation states that data can be defined as open if anyone is free to access, use, modify, or share it. The data is subject at most to measures that preserve provenance and openness. Also exist other definitions, for example, the one from Open Data Institute, that is easier to understand but still define the data in a similar way, said that open data is data that anyone can access, use or share. We also need to mention that the concept of open is a synonym of free, in the sense of libre, because sometimes is misunderstood and is related to the word gratis. The Open Knowledge Foundation declares certain requirements that data must satisfy to be defined as open. They said that the work must be in the public domain and or provide under open license. Any additional term to the work must not contradict the publicity of it. The work also must be provided as a whole and must be when a user must be able to download it. But also the work must be provided in a form that is processable by a computer, in which each element can be easily accessed and modified. Finally, the work must be provided in an open format, and an open format is one which places no restriction of to the work, monetary or otherwise. Open data aims to collect and share knowledge about the real world, but the representation of a same real-world phenomenon can happen in various forms, which depending on factors, as said before, based on culture and tradition or others. The existence of different representation is called semantic heterogeneity. This variance has, of course, effect on data and its management. Datascientia uses a novel approach toward data, which is based on the key assumption that data should be represented as a set of stratified and independent representation layers. We have four main layers: the conceptual layer, knowledge layer, language layer, and data layer. Each of the layers represents their diversity in the world phenomenon. Let's spend some words describing them. For example, conceptual diversity. Here, concepts are described as unique linguistic entities. They're organized in multiple hierarchies. One hierarchy for synthetic type, where with synthetic type we mean noun, verb, or adjective. Since we have hierarchies, we can say that a child concept is more specialized of a father concept, and vice versa. Language diversity is represented using various languages, for example, natural languages, namespaces, and formal languages. And here the diversity can be both across two languages or within a single one. For example, the same concept can be represented by two or more languages, but also inside only one of them, we can find two synonyms to represent the same concept. Then we have the knowledge diversity that is seen as a set of entity types called E-types, which have associated properties. The knowledge diversity and the knowledge layer is modeled using a graph where each node is an entity type and each link is a property. And finally, we have the data. The data is also in a form of a graph of entities that is populating the previous knowledge graph. Considering the requirement to handle open data and the additional complication that the stratified data add, our main goal is to correctly handle the data management process. The concept of data management has a wide meaning and comprehends a wide range of topics, such as the design, the organization, or the maintenance of data. In our environment, we focus on two main processes, which are data publication and data composition. Data publication, also called data publishing, is the act of releasing data in a published form for the user to access it. It consists of preparing the data for the public, but also ensuring that such data is available to everyone to be used within the definition we saw before. Among the various options to public open data, we can find publishing data as a supplemental work of an article, or hosting the data in a specific repository, or again hosting data on a publicly available website with file available for download. This option is the one that we are going to discuss further later, as we refer as open data portals. Whereas data composition consists of preparing and processing the data based on the user request. During the composition, two or more datasets, taken fully or in part, can be composed in order to generate a new one. In the context of stratified data discussed before, the composition consists of specific pipeline to connect datasets from different layers. But at the meantime, the user may request to compose two or more datasets from the same layer. As said before, the process to publish open data consists of preparing and sharing datasets. The result of the preparation phase is a centerpiece of the Open Data Initiative and is called Data Catalog. A catalog is a list of dataset available in Open Data Initiative, and the essential element of a data catalog include searching, metadata, clear license information, and access to the dataset themselves. In the context of open data, we can describe four different types of data catalog, such as open source, software as a service, federated, and standalone catalogs. But we will focus mainly on open source catalogs, which are the most flexible and customizable. The adoption of catalogs offers a wider discoverability of published datasets, which increase based on the quality of the metadata themselves. This lets us understand how, when adopting a catalog, they became relevant to have the best possible metadata in order to maximize the discoverability of the dataset. Became crucial then to find a standard to express metadata, to contrast all the possible customization that we can have with a catalog. Since metadata aren't often self-explanatory and can be quite difficult to understand, it is possible to refer to various standard vocabulary. One of the most common and used is Data Catalog Vocabulary, DCAT, which is developed by W3C. The use of standard model and vocabulary facilitate the consumption and aggregation of metadata, which can increase the discoverability of dataset and data services, but also allow federated search for datasets that are across catalogs in multiple sites. As catalog handle the publication of data and service provide a solution for the composition. Sorry. Okay. I said in the same way, catalog can handle the problem of data publication. We have services that provide a solution for the composition problem. A common definition about services for all catalog can be given only to a certain level. In fact, the inner working of a service strictly depends on the catalog and the type of data listed inside. Based on it, the user may be able to request a specific query. For example, the download service will surely be common to every catalog, but its implementation may differ a lot. For example, in some cases, it may be quite simple, permitting to download a single distribution of a dataset directly from the web pages. Instead, in other cases, the download may happen only after the composition of two more datasets. Surely, another common service for all the catalog is the search, which will be more or less complex based on the user needs and request. Let's now see our Datascientia environment before continuing with our talk. As we can see in this image, we have inside the Datascientia environment different catalog. In our case, sorry, I would say that I put the wrong image here, actually. Sorry, so I will actually change a little bit. I'll try to explain. We have inside our Datascientia environment 4 catalog. One is called live language, live knowledge, live data, and live people. The catalog try to map the data heterogeneity that we discussed before. Live language catalog will contain dataset from layer 1 and layer 2, the concept and language layers. The live knowledge instead will have a dataset from the knowledge layer, and similarly, live data will contain the dataset from the data layer. Finally, we will have live people that is slightly different from the other one, since it does not refer directly to any of the 4 layers we discussed before, but instead contain dataset that are based on the research data about citizens. Catalogs and services are the chosen solution for the challenge laid by the data publication and data composition. But define them is not enough. We also need to find a platform to easily access and use both of them. Open Data Portal is the platform able to offer that. An Open Data Portal is a web-based interface whose purpose is to make it easier to find reusable information. In combination with specific search function, they facilitate finding dataset of interest. They also offer other features such as APIs, different and also are central element of most open data initiatives. In Europe, for example, they are mainly used in public administration and research fields. Nowadays, there exist different types of portals whose complexity and reliability depend on their feature. Some of the most important features should refer to the catalog elements that we discussed before, such as implementation and efficient searchability, but also capability of handling standardized metadata. Obviously, the portal must offer an easy accessible access to dataset and the catalog. Also, the presence of an API is a plus. It's quite interesting since offer direct and automatic access to the data for a software application. Make it more easy for users to access the data itself. Our technology of choice to implement the Open Data Portal in our environment is CKAN. CKAN is an abbreviation for Comprehensive Knowledge Archive Network and is one of the most common platforms to manage open data. It's primarily used for governmental and enterprise data. In fact, we can find various countries whose government open data are based on CKAN, such as UK and USA, which can be the biggest example, but also smaller examples such as Switzerland and Italy. Regarding the enterprise utilizer, we can find enterprise from energy sector, pharmaceutical, but also finance sector. This makes this technology an interesting option to use also for our research open data. CKAN is an open source platform, is maintained by a strong community and was initially developed by the Open Knowledge Foundation. From its first release, is constantly improved and further development. The feature offered by CKAN perfectly match the ones required by Catalog, since this technology was thought in order to manage them. They offer an API. They offer access to offer access from software application. They also offer extension to a complete customization for both metadata and the portal itself. On top of that, one of the best features of CKAN is the wide search engine that is powered by Solar. Let's now discuss more in depth the inner working of CKAN. CKAN Core offers a basic implementation of their portal, which has all the main features perfectly working, such as the search engine, but also the possibility to add catalog, dataset, and publisher. Obviously, the base CKAN has a list of general metadata, but also the presence of working filtering and minimal statistical feature. The extensibility of base CKAN offers the developer a great opportunity to fully customize the final portal. The extension works in a stratified way, where at the base we have the CKAN core, and on top of that one or more plugins, where each of them handle a specific feature. Here from the image on the right, we can see that at the base, as we said, we have CKAN core, and on top of that other plugin. For example, one plugin can extend the authentication, another the scheming, extending the metadata, or spatial extension. The extensions are completely customizable. Each CKAN page is generated using Jinja 2 templating language and can be customized using the same technology. Using Jinja 2, it is possible to generate the template of various files, for example, XML, HTML, or CSV, but most of CKAN files are HTML files. Jinja 2 is quite powerful, offering the possibility to add also snippet of code inside HTML files, but also tags such as the for tag or if-else tag. The part that is more interesting for the extension process is the fact that it's possible to extend a specific HTML page with the statement CKAN extends. Let's see an example. Let's say that in the core CKAN we have a file called index.html that contains an image and a form. We decide that for our implementation in our extension, we need to add other images after the form to increase, to give more information to the user, for example. So how we can do that? We can have advantage of this CKAN extend statement, create a HTML page with the same name in our extension, so index.html inside our extension, and then inside it add only the HTML code for the image. The interesting part is that when the browser will render the final page, we will have a combination of the core content and our extended content. At the same time, another feature is that the possibility to replace a part of the page with another one, or removing the one that are not necessary anymore. This is possible due to the presence of blocks that delimitate each main HTML element. Using the same example, we start having the image and the form, where the image is inside the image block and the form inside the form block. Again, in our index.html page, in our extension, we recall the form block and we change the content. In this way, when we will render the final page, we will see the image in our customized form. It is also possible to customize the backend of CKAN, which handle the portal logic and is mainly written in Python. In our extension, the customization of CKAN is what brought the biggest changes. In fact, we created a new object that was not present in the design of core CKAN that is called workspace. As we can see here inside our Datascientia, we have more than one catalog. In this case, we have n catalog, but as we said, we have mainly 4. And then we have workspace. The relation between workspace and catalog is 1 to n, which means that for each workspace, we have only one catalog, whereas a catalog can have more workspace. Each catalog still can access to all the dataset listed by it, even if we have the workspace in between, since the purpose of a workspace is to offer a more precise grouping inside the catalog. The grouping may depend on the catalog or purpose or the dataset that we have inside it, and we have different number and type of workspace depending on the catalog itself. Also, let's see a little bit about the plugin stratification of our extension. So as we said before, on top of CKAN core, we put our extension. In particular, inside our extension, we have a series of plugins. As you can see here, starting from CKAN core, on top of it, in yellow, we have a series of external plugins. One for authentication, one for scheming, for spatial, and cloud storage. These are external, but still needed for our Datascientia extension. On top of it, we have the catalog plugin. Here are inside our extension, we have a plugin for each catalog. In this way, the developers are able to modify only the code inside each own plugin. On top of it, we have the Datascientia theme plugin. The Datascientia theme plugin handles all the front end of the portal, which means the appearance or the HTML pages. And finally, inside the Datascientia core, we have the backend customization that we discussed before. I would say that right now I will give you a little tour, a demonstration of the current version of our Datascientia portal. Let's say just that this is a demonstration, so the test does not have any meaning. I just borrow some, of course, the 4 catalog name, but also, as we will see in a minute, inside the live language, I just borrow some workspace and dataset name from the actual catalog that is now published online. So starting from this page, you can see we have the list of our catalogs. So the user is able to browse between them. Also, the header will lead us to some information about Datascientia, in particular to our website. There's also a way to switch between catalog in an easy way from the header. This is available in all the pages. And then a direct access to dataset and services. Let's go now visit live language catalog. This is a template for all the catalogs, so also the other appear in this way. We start having a description of the catalog, and then let's go some tabs. Let's see some of the tabs. First of all, the search tab. As we say, the search is crucial inside a catalog. In this case, we implemented this search to permit the user to search every dataset inside the catalog regarding their belonging to a certain workspace. But also, it is possible to search by tag or by a portion of the dataset name or the description. This is fully customizable from our side. Then we have the workspace tab, where we list all our workspace and we show the dataset and part of the description. Here, then we can proceed visiting directly the workspace or see the list of them in another form. We also have a service tab where we will show the service available for this particular catalog. Right now, we have two main services that are now common for everyone, uploader and publisher. But in the future, the idea is that each catalog developer is able to insert in this tab the services only for a specific or only for the specific catalog that will not be shown in the other ones. Let's move a little bit showing this other workspace page. Here there is a small description for the user, the list of workspace, and a search. In case the workspace are a lot, it helps the user to better navigate between them. A similar view we have for the dataset. Also here we have another search. This is different from the first one, since these permit the user to navigate only inside a specific workspace, searching the dataset. Also in this case, the search can be based on the title, on a specific part of the title, or on the tags, the metadata also, and other customization that can be done. Here we can also see that it's possible to group based on the workspace or the organization that published the dataset, but if we have some also from tags, format, and licenses. Visiting then the dataset itself, we have the description, and here we have the resources. In this moment, the resources are only listed. We don't have a link for them, but in case we have it, it will appear the button to download it directly from this page. And as we said, depending on the user request, this download may be really simple or can be maybe redirected to another page to handle a more complex download. Also here, additional info. The additional info is our metadata. We have this only the one that was assigned to this dataset, but of course they're fully customizable and they will appear only if set. Coming back to our presentation, I show you our current implementation, the work we've done, but now is also time to discuss the limitation of our work. As said before, CKAN appears to be the best solution when implementing an open data portal due to its metadata customization, the presence of fully functional search engine, in general, offer easy access to the data and a good linking between the data set of interest. Unfortunately, our customization of CKAN had made the development and maintenance of our extension quite complex. In fact, our vision goes against the CKAN core design, where each instance of CKAN is able to handle only one catalog. Forcing it to handle more than one caused the complexity to increase and make our developer infringe some of the CKAN best practice. Moreover, the presence of multiple plugins inside our single extension requires a strong and continuous discussion and alignment between each catalog manager. As we said before, we try to create one plugin for each catalog so that a specific catalog developer or manager can develop in it. Unfortunately, this doesn't separate very well the work. In fact, we usually have to check that our modification does not impact the other works. In the theme plugin, we adopted some strategy to avoid this problem, but unfortunately, we weren't able to track every occurrence. Moreover, the presence of multiple plugins inside the Datascientia, together with multiple extensions that are external, cause difficulties for developer to track the origin of a specific code section, since due to Jinja 2 the template structure, we need to find the HTML page and Jinja 2 blocks that actually contain the code section. Finally, the introduction of workspaces and the presence of more than one catalog inside a CKAN instance also led to an increasing complexity of code that discourage future changes and make it sometimes difficult to fix current issues. The best practice would be to separate the 4 catalogs, creating a CKAN extension for each of them. Unfortunately, doing this required a great amount of human, time, and monetary resources in the immediate future. Not all of these resources are available now. For this reason, an alternative solution has been found. We propose to move the live language, live knowledge, and live people catalogs in a different platform called CKAN. CKAN is a lightweight, backend-free open data portal that is powered by Jekyll. It is similar to CKAN because also CKAN frontend is fully customizable, whereas the backend is fixed and does not concern our developer anymore. CKAN is based on GitHub, which other than store and manage code is sometimes used as an open data portal and repository. The two main differences between CKAN and CKAN that concern us is that in CKAN metadata were stored in a specific database, whereas in CKAN they are directly stored in the GitHub repository. This technicality still does not affect the possibility to customize metadata, but it affects a little bit the search. Also because the search is not powered by Solr anymore, does offer less complex search query, but it still has a satisfied level of filtering. For this reason, since we also, for this free catalog, we don't need to have a really heavy or particular query, this does not impact a lot on us. As we said, we have listed some pro of using CKAN, such as the lightweight or the avoidance of changing the backend, but we also have to consider that we have some cons. For example, we can certainly find that the code does not have a strong contribution from the community as CKAN, and have also less releases, which may cause difficulties if possible issues arise or if a new feature is needed. Moreover, CKAN is the leading open data portal. As we said, it is used by a lot of international government and enterprise, which almost ensure us future maintenance and improvement. For this reason, for all these pros and cons, we propose future challenges. First of all, due to the fact that some resources are not available right now, we will proceed implementing the live language, live knowledge, and live people catalogs on CKAN. There will be 3 different catalogs separately, and fortunately, we will be able to reuse a good amount of code for the front end that we already developed for CKAN. At the same time, live data will remain on CKAN. Live data is a little bit different from the others. It actually need more powerful feature that CKAN is not able to offer us. For this reason, it's important that we still implement it on CKAN. In the same way, a good part of code used for the Datascientia extension that we have right now can be reused for the front end of live data. And finally, when we were able to have the resources needed, we will try to design the live language, live knowledge, live people catalog, again on CKAN, following the best practice discussed before, so having a catalog, a CKAN instance for each catalog. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm here ready to answer all of your questions.
I have a very practical one. Can I talk? Do you hear me?
Yes.
What are the next steps? Which is, when can we give this catalog to Yamini and to Matteo? Matteo, you more like Yamini, I think, and Mayuk, Marco.
You mean the CKAN, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to put them in production. When we can really start to do it in production in our systems.
Okay, our timeline that we thought about is that by the half of next week, I will be able to move the front end from CKAN to CKAN.
Okay.
The idea is next Monday to have actually a meeting with Simone to discuss together some small details, and at the half of next week to have a functioning CKAN catalog. And fortunately, since a lot of functioning already are there, it's just the front end that need to be migrate. And as I said, we can reuse a lot of code. After that, the idea is to create a template from the base CKAN, from which each responsible for the catalogs can pick the template and create another, and take it, and on top of that add any modification that is related only to the catalog, for example the services, and also inserting the dataset of the catalog.
Right. So basically, my understanding is that you give them the template, and then based on the template, they will be able to modify the service part for the new services. Okay, good. And they will be, I think, Simone will have to make sure that the different catalogs are installed the proper way so that they can be tested before going in production, the usual stuff, right?
Actually, so thank you very much, Alessandro, for your explanation. So to answer you, Fausto, to summarize, starting from next week, we will be able to provide the catalogs for each responsible people for the different language, knowledge, and people catalog. And yeah, the fact is that CKAN is very dynamic in this sense, because in the moment they will be able to access the catalog, they will be able to upload the dataset there, and they will be already in production and to be tested for everything. So they will be decide. They can decide who has the access of each catalog and manage. Of course, there will be responsible people for that.
That this means Yamini and others that you start to populate it, right? I mean, then the next
Exactly.
step start populating in Yamini. You'll have to see how this is coherent with the version that you already have, right? So we'll have to make dedicated meetings on that.
Now it's already in my plan to schedule a meeting with Yamini and Gabor in order to provide them all the information and instruction in order to use the JCAN version of the catalog. And the fact is that it's very easy to due to the fact that the data that we have are handled within the repositories. It's just a matter of uploading the metadata on the JCAN catalog, and of course the link are already there. So the same process.
I'm wondering because there is this work that Yamin has done, maybe not the right place now to discuss it, but you will point out that in the language part, all these operations of like integrating language, navigating, maybe this should be outside, maybe it's a dedicated service, but there is an issue of integrating, of putting, I think this is rather crucial aspect.
I agree with you. The fact is that if we decide to keep this as separate services, everything will go in parallel and the service is just linked to the catalog itself. So
you have to make sure the user experience is decent, right?
This is another question. Yes, I agree with you. The fact is that the catalogs are there just to provide publication of data. So in my opinion, is a tool that should be used for that reason. And if we want to use for composition or for something else, of course, it's correct to use the services connected. But you are right, the user experience should be coherent.
The point is that in this case, the Yamini and Gabor is that this operation of selecting the languages, which is actually a catalog operation, right? So it's not clear to me. It's just I don't know, right? Because they should be able to select and then create a storage. I don't know why it was implemented by that.
I mean, searching for data and navigating the catalog is something that is provided through CKAN also. So actually, I think that there will be no limitations on that.
Yeah, difficulty on this? You see, like, are we gonna, like, for instance, what that you select 5 languages? So these are 5 operations in the catalog. How are we gonna do them? We need to have some kind of pipeline, right? Process. I don't know. We need to.
I agree with you. Actually, the fact is that as in JCAN as well as in CKAN, that pipeline is not something that is integrated in the CKAN environment or in the GCAN environment.
That's what I'm saying. That David, I think, already done it, and also in the personal data with Matteo, we do have the same issue. So there is.
Right.
This, of course, I agree with you. Is outside the catalog. It's a major service. I think this is actually a crucial aspect that we will discuss.
I fully agree. Yeah.
By the way, one comment before Andrea, then stop at that, Andrea. You mentioned this tension between CKAN and JCAN. I would like to, maybe as part of your work thesis, kind of, that you're writing the kind of overview, to really make some kind of checklist. I mean, you'd like to get in the details because for sure, for the open data portals, we need CKAN, but for these kind of metadata portals, like language error so Simone was pointing out that maybe what we have is enough, we don't need much integrate. So what I'm suggesting, let's make this like a small checklist checking if ultimately we need to put CKAN in this kind of metadata like knowledge and everything. As a reminder for the future work when we meet next. Sorry, Andrea, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering if there is some way to ensure the metadata quality, to ensure that, to enforce that some property are set, or a way to check that all data set up to required metadata. I don't know if CKAN enforce this or there is a plugin to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have actually a series of metadata that are required, but we don't have a plugin that is able to define a more complex required metadata. Let's say that since the metadata strongly depend on the catalog itself, we have some that are required, but they're like the title or the description or the level of knowledge, and all the others are then added based of the singular dataset. But to ensure that each metadata have a specific meaning, we will referring to the vocabulary to be sure that for the ones that are common for each catalogs, in each catalogs they have the same meaning also for the person that will uploading the catalog. So there will not be misunderstanding on them.
Alessandra,
Yes.
my point of view, the metadata is a repository people like Yamini, for instance, who is in charge of the quality of the metadata, right? They should provide you with an Excel sheet like Matteo with the metadata properly. And then, of course, when you do the upload, you could see whether all the fields are filled, but then you cannot do much more than that. It's going to be up to the repository people to make sure that the data set are properly done, right?
Yeah, exactly. Of course, the definition of the metadata or the one that the user can choose to set are done by the repository manager, but of course the user is also is only able to decide for the one that are not required to set the metadata or not.
Yeah. Matteo, show you not talking to him.
Yeah, I'm just a curiosity out of that, and maybe the question is more for Andrea than for Alessandra. I don't know. But I was wondering what are the criteria to, I mean, assess and define the quality of the metadata. So there are some criteria that we can define, in the process of making them. Some like check that we can do on the type of metadata we define and on how we let's say populate them. But then are there other, I mean, quality check, quality control that we can do, maybe even after the metadata are published? I don't know. Was just a curiosity, a question out of that, and maybe for Andrea, just explaining more what do you mean by I mean the quality and the control of them.
Yeah, so basically, first of all, I would expect that based on the type of data set, you have some schema of the metadata. I mean, a minimum requirement for each data set. Yeah. For instance, you might have when the data set was uploaded or all this information, who is the responsible person for this data set, or what is some other property.
So the quality of metadata, you can split in two parts: the quality of the schema and the quality of the values. So the quality of the schema is a function of the query you want to support. So we have to have enough metadata to support them. This is exactly what we are going to do next week. And this is what Yamini and Gabriel already done for the language metadata. Then, of course, once you have the proper schema, and of course extensible, this is why we completely split the repository metadata generation from the methodology, the metadata exploitation from the catalog search to make a guaranteed like the decoupling, which allows us to be totally flexible in that. But assuming that, so basically, Matteo, as far as live people, personal data is concerned, all the quality is in your hands, which is number one. With me and we talk, we finalize the metadata, and the metadata are the ones who support the search. There is no metadata, people cannot search. But then after that, you, me, and Massimo, as we're already doing, by the way, we have to make sure that the process of filling the metadata is going to be correct, right? The values. But this is why we are making the process precise. But so the quality of the metadata is really, what is it? Is really give me the maximum, give me maximum probability to find the data I need, and then give me the right values, right? And this is what we are doing. So
yeah, that's why I was asking. Maybe Andrea knows some framework or something that that can help us in doing that. That was.
I think KGE is the best way to learn about this. The notion of competence queries and so on. You have to start queries you support, the services you support.
I see. Thank you.
If I can add another thing, my question was, I made that question because now there are some work that propose some checklist for data set that are using for machine learning. And so there is all a series of questions that you have to answer. Like, for example, when you collect that data set, the reason why you collect it and so on, in order to assess if there are some bias in the data, all these things. There are some work also in this direction. I think also I sent you a paper, Matteo.
Yeah,
I remember that one. Yeah. Now I got it. Yes, I also shared it. I think with Simone, and yeah, we will definitely. This is something interesting for us.
Yeah.
Actually,
go ahead.
No, and there are some other proposals to have some sort of metadata also for the models. So not only the data set, but also the model where you describe when you train it, on which data, and some other information. I'm finished.
And is there anyone want to ask questions or give comments? Okay, I think we can stop here. Thank you for Alessandra's presentation. And
Thank you very much.
See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye.